Steve Moran here with another episode of Foresight TV. I think that I've been doing this for about 2 years. Gary Ridge is one of those people who is my hero as a leader. He's the CEO of WD-40. It is a company that is rated at like the top 10 or 12 places to work at globally. He has created a culture where everybody loves coming to work every day, and we are going to pick his brain. But before we do that, we are going to start with this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. So Gary, welcome. You have been at WD-40 for how long?
35 years and 25 years as CEO.
And you are just making a role change. I want to do this right.
Yeah,
well, how you described it.
Yeah, I'm not retiring, I'm refiring. I've done my 25-year apprenticeship in leadership, and being a public company CEO for 25 years, it's time for me to turn the page, and I'm really excited about being able to now take some of the learning I've had in that time and help leaders who really care in other organizations build cultures where people go to work every day, they make a contribution to something bigger than themselves, they learn something new, they're protected and set free by a compelling set of values, and they go home happy. So that's what I'm looking forward to do.
Cool. So I want to actually bring up a couple of slides I put together, and you have a question that you like to ask pretty much everybody, right? And that's, when was the last time you did something for the first time? And so I want to start by asking you that question.
Well, right now, I've never been on your show before, so this is the first time. And, you know, there's some sense behind that. For as long as I can remember, my email sign-off has been, believe in yourself, never give up, take one day at a time. We all have something significant yet to do. And I think it's really important for us to remember that it doesn't matter how small it is, there is opportunity for us to do something significant. So my first time has been here right now with you. So thank you for that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I love that. I think I'm going to steal that from you. I think it is just terrific. So the second question I want to ask is that you've been doing this for CEO for a long, long time, and yet you have the same passion for what you do. Can you just talk to me a little bit about passion and how you get that, how it keeps you going, how you stay passionate?
Yeah, sure. You know, when I was given the privilege to lead WD-40 as CEO 25 years ago, around that time, I was really thinking about how do you make a positive difference in the world? And funnily enough, I was reading some of the work of the Dalai Lama, and I read something which was, our purpose in life is to make people happy. And if we can't make them happy, at least don't hurt them. And what I observed, not necessarily in our company, but around me, were leaders who were not sending people home happy. And, you know, happy people create happy families create happy communities create a happy world. And by golly, we need a happy world. And in today's world, no more than ever before is that so important. So I think that, you know, creating these environments is really important. I love seeing people be successful and have a happy life, because at the end of the day, all we have is memories. And if we can't create positive, lasting memories, we haven't really done our job as human beings. So, you know, life's a gift. Don't send it back unwrapped.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. So through the pandemic, I'm sure I assume you were probably doing still some hiring. I would assume the pandemic was probably relatively good for you in that people were doing home improvement projects. Don't know. But I guess the real question I want to ask you is, do you have trouble, particularly, we know that we're in a very tight hiring situation. Do you have trouble finding people to hire?
Oh, no. I wrote an article, I published it on LinkedIn and it's the basis of it was, are people escaping to or escaping from your organization? I think what COVID did, it really created an environment where before COVID, as we know, people went to work, and unfortunately a huge percentage of them were still disengaged, but there was a percentage that were engaged. And so life was kind of okay. And they went home and life was kind of okay. But when COVID came, those two kind of okays turned into I'm not okay. And unfortunately, some relationships deteriorated, but a lot of people said, I'm not putting up with this anymore. And they escaped from toxic cultures. And I think COVID hopefully has given a lot of leaders a slap up the side of the head to say, we have to create cultures where people actually want to go to work, enjoy what they do, make a difference. You know, I've said, imagine a place where you go to work every day, you make a contribution to something bigger than yourself. You learn something new, you're protected and set free by a compelling set of values, and you go home happy. So we weren't affected as many companies were. And in fact, we were hiring through the pandemic. We had what we named isolation renovation. That squeaky hinge that you had at home that you only heard 2 times a day when you left and came home, now you heard it 40 times a day. Oh, and by the way, Steve, I've got to say something to you. Your little teaser that you have, that aerial's got a squeak on it. You need some WD-40 on that aerial on that TV in your little intro.
Oh, I'm gonna go find that. I know there's a can or two of it in my pantry there. I should have brought it with me, right, as a prop. So you know, it's so funny because as you talk about this, I've got a new keynote that I'll deliver 2 or 3 more times this year, where it's like you're describing the outline of the keynote. The idea is that you can create a culture where people love going to work every day, where every day they know they're making a difference in people's lives. Where does I didn't have this on sort of my list of things, but I think it's a really important question to ask. Where does storytelling come into your culture building?
Oh, it's absolutely. We love stories as human beings, particularly, you know, our second value at WD-40 companies, we value creating positive, lasting memories. And, you know, what is the outcome of a positive, lasting memory? It's telling a story. And I, you know, we love to tell stories that enrich people. And, you know, I think I introduced you to someone that's a very, you know, a person that is undesirable. I happen to have them with me.
Yeah, can you tell me about him?
This is him. This is Al, the soul-sucking CEO of Fear Incorporated. And Al has some really bad habits that create these toxic cultures. Al's ego eats his empathy instead of his empathy eating his ego. He thinks micromanagement is essential. Al believes he's corporate royalty. Al spent much of his life climbing this corporate ladder. One must bow down to Al. Al loves a fear-based culture. He's a master of control. He knows it all. He has all the answers. He thinks learning is for losers. He must always be right. He hates feedback, and he doesn't follow through with his commitments. So, and this could be Alice as well. I mean, it's not gender specific, but that's the sort of behavior that create these toxic cultures that people escape from. So we'll get rid of him.
Good. So here's the thing that just drives me crazy is I see in my own industry, I see a number of CEOs who are leading companies that are clearly underperforming. And yet they keep doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for different results. And it doesn't make any sense to me. You have any thoughts on that?
Doesn't make sense to me either, but I think it's probably ego that's driving them in that way. I mean, you know, there are 2 things you need in business to be successful at a high level. You need a good strategy, and most CEOs and leaders that I've met are pretty good at putting together a strategy, a series of actions and events to achieve outcomes. But then what do you need? You need the will of the people. Now, you could have a strategy that, you know, let's say we write it up and we take it to Harvard and they mark it up for us. You get 70 out of 100 for the strategy. But Steve, if only 20% of your people who go to work every day are passionate about delivering against that strategy, 20 times 70 is 1,400. But if 80% of your people, or what I call the will of the people, is high, 80 times 70 is 5,600. So I don't know why they don't get it either. You have to have a passionate group of people supporting your strategy to be ultimately successful.
So I've often wondered if part of the problem is that there have been a couple of big name CEOs who have been frankly asses and had been amazingly successful. Steve Jobs sort of being perhaps one of the most significant, and that perhaps because people look at somebody like him and say, oh, that must be the right way to lead, that it creates a false sense of the right kind of leadership.
And well, you know, let's go back to 384 BC. And in 384 BC, Aristotle was born. And Aristotle said, pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. Oh, duh. We all know that if we like what we're doing, we are absolutely better at doing it. So I don't get it. I mean, you know, this stuff is so simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And again, I think it's the habits of Al and the attributes of Al that people don't get. A lot of people think this is soft stuff. This is not soft. This is hard stuff. You know, when I was in school in Australia many years ago, my teacher gave me a petri dish. And the teacher said, we're going to grow culture in this petri dish. So what do we have to think about? Well, firstly, what are the ingredients you put in the petri dish to ensure you grow great culture? And then secondly, what do I have to do as the owner of that petri dish? I have to watch it every day. So the algorithm for great culture is culture equals values plus behavior times consistency. So our job as leaders is to make sure we're putting the right ingredients in the petri dish, and that's got to be thoughtful. But then we've got to love our people enough, not only to reward them and applaud them for doing great work, but you've got to be brave enough with an open heart to redirect them when they're putting toxins into that petri dish that's sending that culture sour. And that's where the heart comes.
Yes. I love this so much. The last time I delivered my keynote on this, almost, you know, it's like the talking points are exactly the same. I do a little exercise where I ask people to create a mission statement, not like a traditional mission statement, but a mission statement that not only you as a leader can own, but everybody in your organization can own. So if you look at our website, we talk about how we are helping senior living organizations have higher occupancy, lower turnover, and better cultures. But if you were to come and ask me what I would do, I would tell you that our single focus is to make the lives of people who live in senior living and who live and work in senior living better. And every day, it's what I talk about over and over again. If you're in a meeting, you can't hear that. And it's also a mission that everybody who's a part of my team can own. And so after giving this, we have these cards, and somebody left a card on the table that says, oh, you're just talking about management by walking around. And I guess in some sense, you're right, it is about management by walking around. But there are lots of ways to do management by walking around. Some are really powerful and some are terrible.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, it's a shame most people don't only know they've done a good job because no one yelled at them today. And again, this is about being sincere. And, you know, I have a little card on my computer that I love. And I got this from Marshall Goldsmith, who's a friend of mine. And he asked this question, am I being the person I want to be right now? So are we asking ourselves, are we being that person? And then the question is, who is that person? And my little card says, I want to be grateful. I want to be caring. I want to be empathetic. I want to be reasonable. I want to be a listener. I want to be fact-based. I want to have a balanced opinion. I want to be curious, and I want to be a learner. And I want to throw sunshine, not a shadow. So the question people might ask is, how come a guy who's been the CEO of a US public company for 25 years needs a little sticker on the computer to remind himself of who's the person he wants to be? Well, I have to have it there because we're just like these simple human beings bumbling our way down this pathway of life. And in the bushes are these thieves with owl-type behaviors that come in and pull us off the path and take us into the bushes. And sometimes when we get in that bush of greed and whatever else there is, we kind of feel okay. But we have to remind ourselves that's not where the best you is. The best you is where you really want to be for the person you want to be. So we have to remind ourselves. So that's why, you know, behind me, people can say, I've got lots of little sticky notes on the wall. That's how stupid I am. My life is driven by being reminded by sticky notes.
So this is the thing that, so as we have not a lot, but we have a number of publicly traded companies in the senior living space. Without exception, they all underperform. Actually, there's one nursing home company that does perform well, but with one, that's the exception to the rule. And when I have conversations with people about it, they say, well, you just don't understand because running a public company is very different, which means you can't always do the things that you know you need to do. And yet you've done that. How does that work?
Well, you play the infinite game, firstly, not the finite game. And you have an organization with a highly engaged workforce. So we have 93% employee engagement. 98% of people say they love to tell people they work at the company. So therefore, we have high will of the people. High will of the people times a reasonable strategy. You deliver to Wall Street what they want, which is a worthy investment, but you've got to do it with both. And, you know, golly, when you think about senior living, what is more purposeful than people going to work every day to make the lives of those who haven't got the ability to take care of their own life so well a happy place? My mum, Steve, lived till she was 99 years and 9 months old. And in the last years of her life, she was in a senior living facility in Australia. And when I'd go to visit them, I would say to the folks working there, thank you. I am so grateful that you're here to do what you can to make my mum's life a little better in these late years of her life. And, you know, I toured a couple of senior living facilities myself, and I gave a keynote at one once, and I said, I have to thank you because you are making a difference in people's lives every day. So that's what's so important.
That's why it drives me crazy, because there's stories to be collected. I'm actually going to go. I'm so excited about this. It's not a very efficient use of my time, except I think it's going to be one of the most efficient times. I'm going to spend a week living at a senior living community in Florida, and we are going to spend the week figuring out the right mission for individuals, and then collecting and telling stories that support that mission. Sometimes I hope mostly they're going to be stories that reinforce the mission, but I expect that we'll find some stories that are learning lessons as well. So I want to go back to our slides there, Leanne, who's in the background and helping us. Thank you with that. I have gotten through 2 slides. So tell me about the WD-40 Maniac Pledge.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? It's a pledge of responsibility. We developed it many years ago, and it was the outcome of people kind of pointing fingers. For example, you know, why don't I know this? Why didn't you tell me this? And if you read it as it says, it's, you know, the first 3 words are I am responsible for taking actions, asking questions, getting answers, and making decisions. And I love this second part a lot. I won't wait for someone to tell me. If I need to know, I am responsible for asking. I have no right to be offended that I didn't get this sooner. And if I'm doing something others should know about, I'm responsible for telling them. So it's really in plain language stating what do we expect from each other. And it's been a great piece of communication and deliberate action within our organization of saying, you know, this is what we are. So if you need to know something, ask the question. It's okay. You don't have to wait to be told. If you're curious, be curious.
Yeah, I really like this so much. As you know, for a long time, it was my organization was me and a couple of part-time writers and one full-time admin. And over the last 2 or 3 years, we've grown. and we've added people. And one of the biggest challenges that I have faced that's been so enlightening is that I'll go to team members and I'll say, just go do this. And then they'll come back and they say, well, can I do that? And I'm like, you go figure it, you go do it. It's your job. And I don't blame them because they have come from a work culture where if they just took initiative, they would be in trouble for it. And it's like, I hired you so I don't have to do this stuff anymore. And I hired you because I trust you. And the attitude of distrust is frustrating and baffling.
You shouldn't have to quack up the hierarchy till you find the king mallard, quack, 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 to get approval to do something. If you've got a set of values in the organization that both protect people and set them free, and you're clear about what they mean, anybody should be able to make a decision. And guess what? If they make the wrong decision, it's not a mistake. We don't make mistakes. We have learning moments. And a learning moment is a positive or negative outcome of any situation that needs to be openly and shared with all people. So we've been talking about learning moments since 1999. I took the word failure out of the organization because people aren't proud of failing. But learning, if you call it a learning moment, firstly, they can see the value in the learning. And if we learn something and we capitalize on that learning, everyone benefits from it. So don't make mistakes. We have learning moments.
Yeah. So we've been going for about 12 years, and we've tried lots of things that didn't work. And I will tell you that we've never made a mistake in that they were all learning moments, and sometimes we just didn't know. And I've had a couple times where I've had people working for me and they went out and they did something and it didn't work right. And they were so apologetic. And usually when that happens, it's because I didn't give them enough resources, which means it's not their fault. It's, if anybody's fault, I'm kind of a faultless, no fault organization. But if it's anybody's fault, it's mine. Okay, let's take a look at a couple more. We're running short on time. I don't know that I'm going to get through all my slides, but I want to take a look at here. Okay, I don't know. Let's talk. You have said over and over again that you love those three words.
Most powerful words I've ever learned in my life, the three words of I don't know. And the reason being is, vulnerability is so important. And if you admit you don't know, and if we're in a situation where we don't know, that's okay. I mean, I'm glad we've identified it because now we'll find out the answer. We'll work through it. But so many people, and, I talked about Al, the soul-sucking CEO. He has all the answers. The problem with them, most of them are wrong. So, being in a situation where you can say, I don't know, but I tell you what, we can find out. So these three powerful words have been so important to me, and getting comfortable with it is A-okay.
And they represent opportunity, right? I mean, you have this opportunity to go figure stuff out. Fear of stepping out.
Yeah, this is a great example of, we have such huge opportunities, he told me, but people were afraid to step into their roles. Fear of failure, the biggest fear in the world. And that's why we talked about failure doesn't exist. What exists is learning. So the fear of failure, the antidote to it is the learning moment.
So I want to actually dig a little deeper into this. So when you've had massive growth in revenue since you came to WD-40, like what, triple, quadruple, something like that?
6x.
So just amazing. And yet you were successful before you did that, right? Yeah. So talk to me about how you went, and so you went from having this thing that I've known since I was a kid of oil in a spray can. Is that insulting to say? I would worry that I'm oil in a spray can, and you've expanded both the marketplace, but you've expanded from a product standpoint. But that obviously involved risk. When you had something that was working, talk to me about sort of the thinking to make those decisions.
Well, what you have is not a can of spray oil. What you have is a can of memory making. because our why statement is we exist to create positive, lasting memories, solving problems in factories, homes, and workshops around the world. And what we identified 25 years ago is that these memory-making opportunities existed in many countries around the world. So our growth came from taking an organization, a business that had 80% of its revenues in the United States, to now having 65% of its revenue outside of the United States. We sell in 176 countries around the world. We have offices in 17 countries around the world. So what we did is we took what we knew and we took it to the world. Our dream when I became CEO was pretty simple. We want to take the blue and yellow can with the little red top to the world. There was lots of squeaks out there and lots of memories for us to make. So that's exactly what we did. And we 6x'd revenue, we built our employee engagement, and we took our market cap from around 300 million to nearly $3 billion. But I could go back and go to what you said and say, we just sell oil in a can. No, we're selling a can full of memory making.
Oh man, I love this. This has so much. I wish you were a CEO of a senior living organization. You would transform the whole industry. And I've actually got an idea I want to talk to you about when we're done here after we get off air. I know that's a tease for all of you who are watching, and that's okay. Okay, you've got 4 pillars, and that's probably going to take us about to where we're at. So talk to me about these 4 pillars.
Yeah, the 4 pillars of an organization. First thing is care. And care is so important. I care enough about you, not only to applaud you and reward you for doing great work, but I care enough about you to redirect you, because my job is not to mark your paper. My job is to help you get an A. And that's the book that I wrote with Dr. Ken Blanchard, my mentor, Helping People Win at Work. Candor is pretty simple. No lying, no faking, no hiding. I believe most people don't lie. I believe most people in organizations fake and hide. Why do they fake and hide? Because of fear. Get rid of the fear, replace it with learning moments. Accountability. We all let each other down because we are not clear about what we're going to hold each other accountable for. Whether it be, you and your partner, what do you expect me to do? This is this. I heard it a different way. So in the book that I wrote with Ken Blanchard, we talk about what does an A look like? What does an A look like? Have we determined what an A? And responsibility is the maniac pledge. How are we going to describe how we're going to be responsible for each other? Pretty simple stuff. Not easy, but simple.
Yeah, that's the thing. It is simple. It's just not easy. Couple more questions. What are you reading right now?
I just finished reading Marshall Goldsmith's new book called The Earned Life, which is I love it. It's a great book. If you haven't read it, read it. I also just finished reading another book by Ron Carosi, which is called, and I have it on my shelf over here. Let me go get it. Where is it? It's called, To Be Honest.
One more time.
To Be Honest. To Be Honest.
To the honest.
To be honest.
To be honest. Okay, perfect. Great. So if you were to have this inspiration in the middle of the night that you were supposed to be the CEO of a senior living organization where the culture morale was low, and of course the business objectives weren't being met, what would you do? Where would you start?
I talk to the people in the organization and ask them what we aren't doing. It's because it's the people who, the people working in the organization will have the answers.
So you'd start down at sort of the lowest level or at middle management or where?
Everybody. I'd listen. I'd do a listening tour and say, help, I don't know what I don't know. Help me understand what you think we need to do to make this organization a thriving place where people love to go to work and where we put smiles on everybody that we see every day. What do we need to do?
What I love about this is that it's so simple, but as you say, it's not easy, but it's simple. And I see so many organizations doing big programs and one of the things that we see a lot of companies taking great pride in is building great break rooms for their people, which is nice for maybe, I don't know, 6 months, and then it's just the break room.
Yeah.
And they don't last.
No. You know, you can't take fairy dust and sprinkle it on an organization and change the culture. You got to get right into that petri dish and find out, are you putting in the right ingredients? And then are you taking care of the ingredients that are in there? And you have to do it every day, every day, every day, every day.
Yep. Let me see. I want to go one more slide here, and I think we're going to be done. This to me is the crux of it, right? It's about taking care of people.
Yeah, this is Simon Sinek. You know, Simon's a friend of mine, and he told me a long time ago, Gary, leadership is not about being in charge; it's about taking care of the people in your charge. You know, everybody who goes to work every day, and Bob Chapman from Barry Weinmiller says that it's everyone who goes to work is someone's precious child. And I'll add to that. Everybody who goes to work each day is someone's precious child, husband, wife, auntie, uncle, somebody. They all have something going on in their life. And our job about leaders is not to be in charge of them, but to take care of them, to help them develop, to help them step into the best version of their personal self, to be a great coach. And Steve, if you think about a great coach, here's the coach, that really matters. The great coach never runs on the playing field. The great coach is always on the sideline, watching the play, looking for the opportunity to improve the player. The great coach never goes to the podium, never kicks the ball to win, and they spend a lot of time in the locker room. The locker room is where you build trust and you build that care. So be a great coach. Don't be a micromanager.
Yeah, and to me, I think when I think about the senior living space and the operators I know, I think that most of the C-suite people spend very little time down in the buildings, in the front line, just saying, what can we do to make your life better? How can we make this better for you? How can we make this better for the residents? And my mind just, soars as I think about what it would be like if every CEO said, I'm going to spend 30% of my time in the buildings just talking to residents, talking to team members, and asking, what do we need to do to make it better?
Or a simple question, even simpler. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind?
Oh, I love that. So, Gary, thank you very much. This has been absolutely amazing. I love talking to people who are making the world a better place. And the one other thing I wanted to actually say before I signed off here is that my sense is that in your heart, you care for way more than just the team member that's working for you. But as you think about your tribe, you use that term a lot, your tribe, you're thinking about it in terms of their spouses, their kids, their grandkids as well. Is that fair?
Yeah, I have the greatest job in the world. I wake up every day to help people create positive, lasting memories. The most exciting part of that is finding all the different ways to do it. So I'm in the memories business.
I love that. And with that, thank you very much. And if you'll stay on for just a minute after this.